Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Mystery Science Theater 3000, episode 1114, At the Earth's Core. So I finally did it. I'm at the end of the season. This is the last review of season 11 because there are no other movies to review in season 11, so that's sort of why. But yes, we're at the end of the road for season 11, which is kind of bittersweet, I think, and it's been a good run. The thing with this episode in particular is there's obviously a cliffhanger, and that cliffhanger thing can kind of overpower discussion on the rest of the entire episode. I could just talk about that. I could make a video just talking about that. I think people have made videos just talking about that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about the episode and obviously the cliffhanger because last I checked, that is part of the episode. But I'm going to have that at the end, and there's going to be a spoiler section because that is extremely spoilery. Everything before that, I guess, still is, theoretically, but there's a difference between learning about what some of these skits and riffs are and learning about the cliffhanger, although I think it'd be a little weird if you watched this review and hadn't seen the episode anyway. That's up to you. You can live your life. I'm not going to judge you, even though I did earlier in that sentence. At the Earth's Core is the second of the Doug McClure episodes. It's kind of interesting they split these up because this was actually made as a follow-up to the success of The Land That Time Forgot. Had the same director, had the same star, or one of the same stars, Doug McClure. Both were based off of Edgar Rice Burroughs' novels. This one seemed to have been a little less successful than the previous one. I mean, financially not. They're both sort of bad movies. I sort of prefer the 1-2 punch of Wizards of the Lost Kingdom to the Doug McClure movies, and it's kind of an interesting, weird pop culture avenue to go down, which is certainly something Mystery Science Theater is really good at. I don't know if I like it as much, and they're kind of the better made movies, the Doug McClure ones that are directed by the same director, Kevin Connor, who, you know, certainly not an amazing director. I don't want to see these movies personally. I know people who do actually like them and have a nostalgia for them, who grew up and were kids in that era, and I understand that. And there is kind of a kitschy value and homemade aesthetic and sort of wonderful, almost more budget than Doctor Who Britishness to some of this stuff. So I sort of get that, you know, as much as I like Doctor Who episodes, which are probably on a technical level made worse than this film, although I think the writing on those old Doctor Who's are probably a lot better. I like what they do with this movie, which is they have a lot of fun with it, going from the continuing riff of Doug McClure eating a lot of food, which is like kind of funny because you're like, I don't think he's that fat, but as they kept going, I was like, man, Doug McClure is looking a little husky. I don't like to body shame people, but it really does make you think that. They did a lot of funny riffs where, like, anytime you had the line of slaves, they kept like coming up with, like, Mystery Science Theater is really good at going through like a large group of people and like constantly coming up with jokes. I love one of the opening riffs about Milton Saplotsky. This one might be one of the few episodes where I think the skits are like better than the riffing. Like, I still like the riffing, but because of the whole Kinga's getting married thing, which I haven't brought up in this review, but that's the thing, Kinga's going to marry Jonah in this one, that you kind of are more interested in that. And I think each of the comedy sketches are all actually fairly good, from the stuff with Growler. They reference he looks like Ralph the dog and stuff. I like that M. Waverly was the one we were all hyped up. Everyone was like, M. Waverly's going to be the new bot. M. Waverly was just like a throwaway gag, which was a really funny gag, and I'm glad they did it that way. I think that was a really fun way to use the fandom to set up a joke, which was great. But Growler is a bot I actually liked and really liked, and I want to see him in more stuff. I don't know if I'd want him there every episode, but I still quite like him. I like the steampunk bots thing. I like the permanent temporary tattoos and the Rip Taylor canon and all that stuff. And even like Paul Chaplin coming back, which was great. Paul Chaplin coming back as the Observer. I think it's his first time back as the Observer, although he's worked on various episodes in this season. He's kind of like a deep cut cast member and writer. You have to be a real fan to be like, oh, Paul Chaplin's in this, oh my god. I especially like Joel McHale in this, who wrote on the previous episode, but only just does a guest appearance in At the Earth's Core. And in this one, he does mention the obvious Doug McClure would later then influence Troy McClure, and he just goes for it to go, you might remember me from such films as, which is kind of cute. I sort of understand why it annoys people. I noticed no one's that into the Joel McHale thing, but I thought it was kind of cute and funny. It's not the greatest. I think Mark Hamill is probably my favorite celebrity cameo, but I thought it was still a good one. He's a perfect like Doug McClure. The hamminess of Joel McHale definitely works in this one's favor. Overall, I think this was a good episode. I don't think it had the amazing riffs that The Land That Time Forgot really had a bunch that were nailing it and like were actually like pretty smart and wonderful. And this I feel like is an average to lesser average episode, but it's still a really good one. And I think it's obviously one you're going to want to check out because of all the other stuff going on, but you're not going to be totally disappointed in the movie riffing or anything. You'll just be kind of sort of fine with it. I think it's probably the lesser of the two of the McClure episodes, but it's still a really good one and still highlights. What I keep saying about this run of the show is the worst it can get isn't really that bad, and this is probably put it towards the bottom tier if I were to rank them, which I'm not. I still quite like this episode and the riffing, and to see Peter Cushing in an episode. Oh, also I forgot to mention that Caroline Munro, she was in Star Crash. This is a good way to like connect those, which they do mention. I still think it's weird they picked this as the last one. I think Carnival Magic would have been a better choice, but I think maybe it works because you're wanting to talk about all the other stuff that happened in this episode other than the riffing in the movie. But I think if they had combined an episode like Carnival Magic with all the crazy stuff that's going on in this episode, you'd have probably one of the better ones of the season. But that's a hypothetical and changing context and a different reality thing. And anyway, I obviously want to talk about the spoilers, so this is a spoiler section. If you haven't seen the episode, then I don't really know why you're watching this, but still I'm going to talk about the cliffhanger ending, so please do not watch this if you want that spoiled for you. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, comment, all that stuff. But this is a spoiler section, so please stop watching if you have not seen Mystery Science Theater episode 1114, At the Earth's Core. We're going into spoiler country. That was lame. Obviously, the big thing is Jonah is eaten by the Metallica Reptilicus, and we don't know if he's coming back or not. Jonah on the Revival League podcast, which is Jonah Spoils Everything, which you should really, if you have watched all these reviews or if you've seen all the Mystery Science Theater episodes of the season, download that podcast. It's really good. It's basically like the Amazing Colossal episode guide of this season, sort of. Although they should make one of those, but for this season, I mean, they've made one, and I have it, and that's a whole thing. And he talks about how he said that when they talked about how long he's going to be there, because I think we all like Jonah, and that was kind of my first thing, was like, whoa, Jonah's going to be the Christopher Eccleston. This is just going to be a one and done thing. But he said that him and Joel have talked, and he said, you know, Joel did about 100, Mike did about 100, and they'd like Jonah to do about 100, which seems like a rough estimate, but they did do about 100 each. Although the way they make seasons now is gonna take like forever. It'll take like 8 or 9 seasons or something. Anyway, and Jonah says you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands, which was a nice Heston reference. I just realized because Charlton Heston. We saw a guy in a spacesuit walking during the credits. Was that Jonah? Was that someone else? Was that the spacesuit thing he seemingly kept working on? What was the deal with that? I think the continuity, when I've watched the entire thing, I will say I think the continuity of this worked better than I've seen continuity ever work in Mystery Science Theater. All my problems with the Sci-Fi Channel thing, as I was going on with it, I wasn't sure, but as I get to the end, I was like, oh, this all kind of works really well. I would like to see how they're going to bring Jonah back, but I'm also curious, like, what does Matt McGinnis, or Matt Van Dam, I believe, what does he have to do with this? What's going to happen exactly? Will they have two basically hosts with the bots and stuff, and the bots are the same in each or something? I think that would be weird, because I feel like it should be different people doing Crow and Servo if they do him. Clearly, the live show, which, by the way, I have to say, the fans of Mystery Science Theater are amazing, because I was watching these and reviewing them, and it takes me a while and so forth. I went to Mystery Science Theater Live. I've listened to the podcast lots of times. I'm on every Facebook group. I follow lots of people on Twitter. Nobody spoiled this for me. That is so awesome. So thank all of you for that. That's really cool. I remember people talking like, where does this fit in with the seasons? When I went to the live show, the Watch Out for Snakes tour, and it's pretty clear like Jonah is coming back, but it does, like, when you watch that, you're like, no, like, don't leave us. You just got here. Obviously, at the time I'm shooting this review, at least, season 12 has not been picked up yet, and I'm wondering if Joel and Jonah have a crazier idea what's going to happen with season 12 or season 2, depending on your perspective, and thus is why it hasn't been picked up yet. I do not know if that is true, but I was genuinely shocked, and I've never really been shocked by the show. I've seen people go, they've never done this before, blah, blah, blah. I found it to be really cool. I'm curious, like, I feel like this is going to reveal more. I feel like the whole thing with Matt McGinnis' character just showing up in the Carnival Magic episode, I think could possibly happen. That's my crazy theory that I have no basis in, but I'm curious what is going to happen and what's going to happen next. I'm always excited for new Mystery Science Theater, but I'm almost more excited because I want to know what is gonna happen, but clearly Jonah isn't going anywhere. I know Joel said in some interviews and stuff they want to do more shorts next season, and maybe Matt McGinnis would do that, and they'd release those on YouTube or something, and Jonah would just do the Netflix or something like that. I think that could be cool to have two hosts at once. I'm just saying, I have nothing to back that up. I have no verification on that. This was a great season. I think still Cry Wilderness is my favorite. This was an episode I'll probably always remember because of all the craziness going on. I was surprised TV's son of TV's Frank was so jealous at Jonah. I'm curious what's going to happen with him. It was cool seeing Kevin Murphy, Bill Corbett, and Mary Jo Pehl show up again at the end of this. I think this overall, by the way, was a good episode. I think the movie riffing and so forth, it was fine, but I thought they really brought it for the end finale through the host segments and everything like that. Also, that steampunk sequence, now I'm like sort of remembering it, like the whole thing where he's like, my head hurts with Thomas Servo. It wasn't very functional. That was funny. On a complete side note, but I do like this episode. I'm curious where it's going. It kind of makes my Misty theorizing and fan head go wild, and I think that's something that, like, this, just that this existed was making me go wild, but the fact that, like, this ending has making me go even crazier, like, what is the future of the show? Oh my god, I need to know right now. So they did an excellent job at hooking me in for even more, and I hope they hooked in Netflix and got them hooked so I can see even more in season 12, and I can't wait to dig into the future of Mystery Science Theater after seeing both this episode and this great season. So if you have seen Mystery Science Theater 3000, episode 1114, At the Earth's Core, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. And if you're wondering, this is not the end of Mystery Science Theater reviews. I'm probably just going to do classic episodes, but probably to a much lesser degree, about once a month, until the show comes back, and then I'll, be more on it. So expect one review a month from now on for Mystery Science Theater. Thank you all very much for watching. If you watch all these season 11 reviews, it's been really, really cool of you. It's been cool making them, and it's been cool reliving and finding new episodes of this show, which is still one of my favorites. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.